Man is on a quest to develop machines that read each other's thoughts. There have already been key breakthroughs, but how close are we to actual mind control?
Is it possible that hackers of the future could somehow manage to peek inside our own heads? Yes.
Reading and controlling a person's mind is perhaps the one power we don't want anyone else to have. Imagine a world where you can read your boss's thoughts or glean the intentions of your worst enemy. That's Impossible has assembled a to-do list. 1. Crack the code on how the brain processes information. 2. Develop the technology to tap into, even steal, thoughts. 3. Perfect the means to remote control another person's actions. Right now, in secret and public, scientists are working on the important first step to reading the mind. But how? The brain's complexity dwarfs that of any existing computer. There are approximately 100 billion nerve cells, or neurons, in the human brain, almost as numerous as the stars in the Milky Way. Each of these cells has a negative electrical charge inside the cell and a positive charge along the outside of the cell membrane, in essence creating a tiny electric battery. Think of it as the brain's software, the world's most sophisticated search engine.
Inside our heads, the nerve cells are all engaged in kind of a telephone-like conversation, one speaking to the next, and as the information is going through, each neuron is listening to all of its neighbors, giving rise to more and more complicated signal processing inside our brains.
But the first critical step to cracking the code of how the brain processes information is being able to listen in on these millions of telephone-like conversations all taking place at once. Believe it or not, as information passes through the brain, the electrical impulses between neurons can be heard. This is the actual sound of a brain neuron firing. So in a way, we can literally hear thoughts. But how do we translate those sounds so we know what the person is thinking? At Brown University, they are working with tiny computer chips that can be implanted into the brain to transmit neuron impulses to a computer for mind-reading interpretation. It's like connecting your iPod to a computer and downloading music.
One scary possibility that we would have to guard against is that, is it possible that hackers of the future could somehow manage to peek inside our own heads?
There may be reason to be concerned.
I'm Cheryl Welsh. I'm a human rights activist and a mind control victim.
Starting in the 1960s, people began claiming they were victims of mind control. As recently as 2007, prestigious publications like the Washington Post investigated claims by a growing number of victims that the government is trying to control their minds. Cheryl is one of them. Cheryl believes she became a targeted individual, a TI, in the 1980s, when she walked into an Army recruiting office to see if she qualified for college tuition money. She decided not to enlist. And that's when she claims the strange mind control phenomena began.
Basically, the hearing of the voices, the manipulation of all your electrical equipment, the clicks on the phone, the reading your thoughts, the reading your mind, seeing what you're seeing.
Could Cheryl's claims and those of other TIs be true? And if so, how would the government be controlling their minds? Many of them, including Cheryl, point to electromagnetic and microwave mind control weaponry.
Everybody agrees your mind is an electrochemical system. It works on electric signals, magnetic signals, and signals from the outside, they know this, can mimic, disrupt, or interfere with signals in the body.
John Alexander is a retired U.S. Army colonel and Pentagon advisor on non-lethal weapons. His 1980 article, The New Mental Battlefield, published in the Army Journal Military Review, is cited by Cheryl and other TI victims as proof that the government is carrying out mind control experiments. However, he denies any government wrongdoing.
I'm very familiar with the conspiracy theorists on mind control and what they state. The biggest question I'd ask is, why them?
During the 35 years since these experiments ended, science has made giant leaps away from these primitive attempts at mind control and are making science fiction science fact. Even the government has been secretly developing new mind control technology. According to this article in the Washington Post magazine, in 1994, the Air Force Research Laboratory carried out experiments where scientists used technology to transmit phrases into the heads of human subjects. How? By burying subliminal messages in microwaves and beaming them into a person's head. It seems like a weapon torn from the pages of a comic book. The Air Force denies it's working on one. But patent number 6470214, issued on October 22, 2002, says otherwise. The patent title, Method and Device for Implementing the Radio Frequency Hearing Effect. Patent holder, the U.S. Air Force. Documents surrounding the development of this secret weapon are classified. But what is known is that microwaves carry energy. When a microwave pulse is absorbed by our body, this energy is converted to heat, causing the tissue to expand slightly and then contract when it cools. If the microwave were aimed at our head, this expansion and contraction would be heard as a clicking sound that could be encoded into words.
With that sort of technology, you could give someone an instruction, or you could perhaps make them think they were going mad. And it quite clearly talks about the military applications of this technology.
Is patent number 6470214 a top secret mind control weapon? According to this passage in the patent documents, this device can beam energy waves that can be, quote, converted to nerve signals which are sent to the brain, thereby enabling intelligible speech to be perceived by the brain. The result? The person hears voices that aren't there, much like the voices reportedly heard by targeted individuals. If this mind control weapon exists, could this technology be deployed on a mass scale? There's speculation that the government already has.
He who controls the thoughts of the people controls the world. Historically speaking, warfare has been about territory. The future may be the battle for the mind.
Is that battle to control minds already being waged on a mass scale? Disturbing questions have been raised about a U.S. government program known as HARP.
HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. It was developed initially by the Navy and Air Force back in the 1980s. But essentially it was to modify or alter the ionosphere, a layer that begins about 30 miles above the Earth's surface.
HARP is a bank of 180 antennas, each as tall as a 7-story building, erected near Gakona, Alaska. The antennas emit extremely low-frequency waves, also known as ELF waves, into the upper atmosphere, which bounce back to Earth and allegedly provide advanced data for studying weather patterns. Researchers like Nick Begich and even some scientists speculate HARP is being used as a weapon against our enemies to create severe storms, hurricanes, even earthquakes, all part of a covert weather warfare program. But HARP has also been linked to mind control.
There are many people who believe that systems such as HARP, which the US government says is about researching the ionosphere and the effects that it has on communication systems. But a lot of people don't believe that. They think that's a cover story, and they think that what this is really all about is behavior modification and mind control.
you'd have a signal that would hit the ionosphere, begin to pulse the energy into the ionosphere, and the ionosphere, this layer, would begin to pulse back. So it changes it from a direct current to an alternating current, sending back to the Earth in the ELF range, extremely low frequency range of 1 to 20 hertz. Those same frequencies, 1 to 20 hertz, happen to correlate with predominant brain frequencies in human beings.
There is scientific data to back up claims that ELF waves can affect human behavior. During the 1960s and 1970s, Dr. Andrija Puharich studied the impact ELF waves have on the brain. What he discovered was shocking. Dr. Puharich found that a 6.6 hertz ELF wave could cause depression. A 7.83 hertz ELF wave made a person feel good, producing an altered state. And a 10.80 hertz ELF wave could trigger riotous behavior. His findings were loudly dismissed as foolishness by U.S. military leaders. But secretly, black ops mind control projects using ELF waves were being discussed at the highest levels of government.
We can do things in our brain. We know the capability is there, the information necessary to make these big leaps in and of themselves. Can I use this negatively? Can I use it to harm people? Absolutely.
President Lyndon B. Johnson had on his board of science advisors geophysicist J.F. McDonald, who wrote that by using accurately timed, artificially excited electronic strokes, quote, one could develop a system that would seriously impair the brain performance of very large populations in selected regions over an extended period.
If you go back to the work of Gordon J.F. MacDonald in the 1970s, you'll find that he was talking about being able to modulate a signal into the ionosphere that would be able to return a signal that the human body would couple with, would lock onto and begin to follow in a manner that would change the emotional state of people over a large geographic area.
Does HAARP fulfill MacDonald's prophecy? Has the day of mass mind control arrived?
For those people that believe HAARP is about mind control, the implications are immense. This isn't just about influencing the behavior of 1 or 2 individuals. If it can be done on such a scale, you could effectively control the minds of entire populations.
The military potential of mind control is obvious. Enemies could be intimidated or be made passive without a shot being fired. The argument is that this would always be preferable to war. But could this technology be used to create a better world? It may depend on one's definition of better.
Imagine controlling people's behavior so that you could stop them being aggressive. There's a sort of utopian vision, perhaps, of world peace. And on the face of it, that sounds a good thing.
The barrier between science and science fiction is all but evaporated. Technology is neutral. In the end, it is the application, it is the intent of the user that determines whether technology is used for good or evil.
I think the future is a place where mind control will exist. I can only hope that it will be in the hands of the right people and that it will be regulated so tightly that it can't be abused.